Why does energy feel scarce and expensive, even as wind and solar farms multiply across the landscape? This is the global energy crisis. It's not a single event, but a complex, interlocking puzzle of affordability, reliability, and security pressures rippling across oil, gas, and electricity markets. Affordability is about more than just the price at the pump. It's about household budgets, industrial competitiveness, and the risk of energy poverty. Reliability is the promise that the lights will stay on, factories will keep running, and hospitals will remain powered, a promise that feels increasingly fragile. And security is about insulating our economies from geopolitical shocks, volatile fuel markets, and fragile supply chains. Today, we'll map this entire system, what's driving the crunch, how prices cascade through the economy, and most importantly, what actually works to build lasting resilience. The story begins with demand, which is on a relentless upward trajectory. This growth is most pronounced in Asia and the global south, where hundreds of millions are climbing the energy ladder, seeking the prosperity that comes with reliable power. This isn't just about charging phones, it's about powering new factories, enabling modern healthcare, and building the infrastructure of emerging economies. Compounding this baseline growth are new, volatile pressures. The post-pandemic economic rebound unleashed a surge of pent-up demand for goods and travel, while extreme weather events, from blistering heat domes to polar vortexes, are pushing heating and cooling loads to new, unpredictable highs. The result is a system with tighter balances, thinner buffers for error, and grids operating perpetually closer to their absolute limits. Urbanization and industrial growth add a steady, ever-increasing baseload demand. The minimum power, required 24/7. But it's the sharp, sudden peaks that stress the system most. Hotter summers mean millions of air conditioners switching on simultaneously, while deep winter freezes drive electric heating demand through the roof. When those peaks arrive, often with little warning, systems with limited spare capacity, what engineers call reserve margin, face a brutal choice: pay exorbitant prices for last resort power, or risk cascading outages. On the supply side, the system is brittle, highly susceptible to shocks. War and sanctions don't just cut off supply, they fundamentally reroute global trade, forcing longer, more expensive voyages for tankers, and creating new geopolitical alignments. Meanwhile, producer groups like OPEC Plus strategically manage output to balance the market, or their budgets, introducing a layer of managed scarcity. Further down the chain, physical infrastructure, like refineries and LNG terminals, have hard throughput limits, and critically, years of chronic underinvestment in upstream oil and gas exploration and production have eroded the world's ability to respond, leaving the system with dangerously little slack just as demand came roaring back. The scars of past price cycles run deep. After the 2014 price collapse, and then again during the pandemic's demand destruction in 2020, capital spending on new projects was slashed. This wasn't just a temporary pause, it was a structural shift driven by investor pressure for capital discipline and uncertainty about long-term demand. The consequences are now unavoidable: fewer drilling rigs, deferred mega projects, and a depleted pipeline of new developments. This means supply growth is slower, more expensive, and takes far longer to bring new barrels of oil and molecules of gas online to meet rising demand. Infrastructure is the third critical constraint, the circulatory system of our energy economy. And in many parts of the world, it's aging and sclerotic. Limited transmission capacity creates invisible walls, stranding abundant, cheap wind and solar power in remote regions, unable to reach the cities that need it. These bottlenecks force grid operators to rely on older, more expensive, and often more polluting local power plants, driving up costs for everyone. The problem extends to dispatchable capacity, the power sources we can turn on and off at will. Grid-scale battery storage is growing fast, but from a tiny base, far from what's needed. The fleet of peaker plants, typically natural gas turbines that fire up to meet high demand, is aging and facing retirement. Meanwhile, building new capacity of any kind, be it a transmission line, a wind farm, or a gas plant, is entangled in a web of permitting and siting challenges that can stretch for a decade or more. So when a heatwave tightens supply and demand simultaneously, operators are left with no good options: pay sky-high spot market prices for scarce electrons, or initiate forced demand curtailments, a polite term for rolling blackouts. The transition to clean energy, while essential, introduces its own set of frictions. The intermittency of wind and solar is the most obvious challenge. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. This requires a massive build-out of balancing resources. Short-duration storage, like batteries, can handle daily fluctuations, but the technology for long-duration, seasonal storage, saving summer solar energy for winter, is still nascent and expensive. Furthermore, the transition is mineral-intensive. A single electric vehicle requires 6 times the mineral inputs of a conventional car. An offshore wind plant needs 13 times more than a similarly sized gas plant. This creates new dependencies on critical minerals like lithium, nickel, cobalt, and copper, whose supply chains are often concentrated in a few countries, creating new geopolitical risks that can delay projects and inflate costs. Reliability varies dramatically by resource, and each has its Achilles heel. Hydropower, a cornerstone of many grids, falters in droughts that are becoming more frequent and severe. Thermal plants like coal and gas are reliable but exposed to volatile global fuel prices and logistical snags. In a crunch, it's common to see markets switch from expensive gas back to cheaper, higher-emission coal, undermining climate goals. Meanwhile, the retirement of nuclear plants, often for political or economic reasons, removes huge sources of firm, carbon-free power from the grid. New, advanced nuclear builds can fill this gap, but they arrive slowly and face significant public and financial hurdles. So, how do these physical realities translate into the prices we pay? It all happens through markets. In the oil world, futures curves and inventory levels are the vital signs. When inventories are low and the curve is in backwardation, meaning near-term prices are higher than future prices, it's a clear signal of immediate tightness. This pressure flows downstream. When the gap between crude oil costs and the price of refined products, the refining margin, widens, it means diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel prices are about to jump. And when they do, so do the costs of all forms of freight and transportation. At the consumer level, this transmission is often delayed but inevitable. Regulated utilities typically pass through higher wholesale power and natural gas costs to customers' monthly bills with a lag, sometimes smoothing the impact over several months. At the gas station, retailers adjust pump prices almost daily, reacting to wholesale costs, local inventory levels, taxes, and competitive pressures. But the core principle is the same. Volatility upstream eventually becomes volatility on your bills. Diesel is the economy's ultimate workhorse, the lifeblood of logistics. It powers the trucks that stock our shelves, the ships that cross our oceans, the trains that traverse our continents, and the farm equipment that harvests our food. Consequently, higher diesel prices act as a universal tax on nearly every physical good. They directly raise logistics costs, but also the cost of producing fertilizer, which relies on natural gas as a key input. This powerful combination means energy price spikes inevitably feed through to broader food and consumer price inflation. What could make conditions even worse? The system is vulnerable to a polycrisis where multiple shocks compound each other. Imagine a major unplanned supply outage on a key pipeline or at a critical LNG export terminal. Combine that with a severe, prolonged cold snap across a major continent, driving heating demand to record levels. Now, layer on a faster-than-expected economic rebound in Asia, pulling more LNG cargoes away from Europe. In this scenario, a large grid failure during peak hours isn't just a risk, it's a near certainty. In today's tightly balanced systems, even small, localized shocks don't stay local. They amplify and propagate globally. With low inventories and minimal spare production capacity, there's no buffer to absorb the impact. The market's only remaining tool is price. Prices are forced to spike to levels high enough to destroy demand, forcing factories to shut down, airlines to cancel flights, and households to turn down their thermostats. It's a brutal, expensive, and deeply disruptive balancing mechanism of last resort. So, what's working? Where are the solutions? The most powerful and cost-effective tool is efficiency. It's the first fuel. Upgrading building insulation, installing high-efficiency windows, optimizing industrial motors, and improving process heat systems can permanently cut consumption at the source. This is often far cheaper, faster, and cleaner than building new supply, and it delivers savings year after year. A key technology here is the modern heat pump. These devices use electricity to move heat rather than create it, allowing them to provide incredibly efficient heating and cooling. By shifting homes and businesses from burning fossil fuels like natural gas or heating oil to clean electricity, they reduce direct fuel price exposure and cut emissions. Their impact is maximized when paired with deep weatherization, sealing air leaks and adding insulation to create a comfortable, low-energy home. Demand response is another game changer. Instead of firing up more power plants, it pays energy users, from large industrial facilities to individual households, to temporarily shift or trim their electricity load during critical peak hours. This can be automated through smart thermostats, EV chargers, and building management systems. It's a fast, clean, and highly scalable virtual power plant that keeps the lights on without needing to burn the most expensive and polluting fuels. Better market design is crucial. This sounds technical, but the impact is profound. Well-designed capacity mechanisms ensure there's enough power available for the worst-case scenarios. Locational pricing sends clear signals about where new generation and transmission are needed most. And building more flexible, high-capacity interties between regions allows cheap, clean power to flow where it's valued most, increasing reliability and lowering costs for everyone. For gas-dependent regions, diversifying supply is key to security. This means investing in a portfolio of LNG import terminals, including flexible FSRUs, and securing contracts with a range of global suppliers. Expanding underground gas storage capacity is equally vital, allowing countries to buy gas when it's cheaper in the summer and store it for winter cold snaps, providing a critical buffer against supply disruptions and price spikes. Transmission expansion is the pivotal enabler of the energy transition. Without a robust modern grid, the best renewable resources remain locked away. Building new high-voltage lines unlocks remote wind and solar potential, relieves costly congestion, and creates larger, more resilient balancing areas that are less vulnerable to local weather events. Nuclear power offers a unique proposition: vast amounts of firm, 24/7, low-carbon capacity. Restarting shuttered plants or extending the life of existing ones can be a quick win for reliability. Looking forward, next-generation designs like small modular reactors, SMRs, promise lower costs, faster construction, and enhanced safety, making them an ideal candidate to provide the clean, firm power needed to cover calm nights and seasonal gaps in renewable output. Ultimately, the future is about integration. Renewables paired with a portfolio of flexible resources, including short-duration batteries, long-duration pumped hydro storage, and dispatchable demand, can convert variable generation into a dependable 24/7 supply. This hybrid approach combines the low marginal cost of renewables with the reliability of dispatchable assets, creating a system that is both clean and resilient. So what does a practical playbook look like? It starts at home. The most impactful steps are upgrading insulation, professionally sealing air leaks, and adopting high-efficiency heat pumps. Beyond that, simple behavioral changes add up, optimizing your smart thermostat schedule, and shifting heavy electricity usage like EV charging or running the dishwasher to off-peak hours when power is cheaper and cleaner. For businesses, the strategy is about managing risk and seizing opportunity. It begins with a thorough energy audit to identify waste. From there, it involves diversifying supply through a mix of utility service and long-term power purchase agreements, PPAs, with renewable projects. Financial hedging can protect against price volatility, while investing in on-site generation like rooftop solar paired with battery storage can provide both savings and resilience against grid outages. For governments, the task is to be an enabler, not an obstacle. This means strengthening strategic fuel reserves to buffer against shocks. It means fundamentally streamlining the permitting processes for critical infrastructure like grids, clean generation, and mineral extraction. It requires creating market incentives that support flexible resources like storage and demand response. And above all, it means setting ambitious but realistic transition timelines, anchored in the non-negotiable bedrock of grid reliability. The core equation of energy policy will always be a triangle: affordability, reliability, and security. It's a delicate balance. If you push one corner too far, too fast, prioritizing cost reduction at the expense of reliability, for instance, the other corners will inevitably strain and break. Durable, successful energy policy is the art of keeping all three in dynamic equilibrium. This crisis won't be solved by slogans or silver bullet technologies. It will be solved through the diligent, pragmatic work of execution. It's solved by projects being permitted and built. It's solved by contracts being signed, standards being enforced, and preventative maintenance being performed. It is the sum of thousands of pragmatic, often unglamorous choices that together add up to a resilient system. The truth about the global energy crisis is ultimately a hopeful one. The challenges are immense, but our tools have never been better. With focused investment, intelligent policy that prioritizes reliability, and the rapid deployment of a diverse portfolio of technologies, we absolutely can build a cleaner, cheaper, and more secure energy system for the future. In the end, resilience built on pragmatism will beat wishful thinking every single time.